You and I are constantly bombarded by misinformation from politicians, celebrities, and media personalities who demonize guns and gun owners. Their accounts are contrary to my experience as a responsible gun owner, a retired police officer, and a professional competitive shooter. I have listened to their lies and I've taken their punches, but I refuse to stay silent any longer because I know a lot of women who have something to say and they won in the game. They're ready to play offense with the truth.
The truth is, we all want the same thing: to protect ourselves, our families, and to be safe in our communities. The DC Project is a nationwide grassroots organization made up of women from every demographic. We come from all different walks of life, but we are united in preserving our Second Amendment rights. As we share our experiences, we push back against gun control lies and oppose those who demand our rights be restricted.
As an immigrant from Venezuela, I saw how easy it was for freedom to die. My family and I watched tyranny destroy our home. In Venezuela, the media, celebrities, and politicians repeated the same anti-gun messages until people found it normal and acceptable to give up their freedoms. The reality is, none of it is normal or acceptable. Hungry and helpless, Venezuelans are now unable to protect themselves. Now, as a proud American, I am determined to guard against the same things happening here.
We constantly hear about common sense gun control, like universal background checks, banning assault weapons, ghost guns, high-capacity magazines, and gun show loopholes. Every city that is facing massive crime waves have put these policies into place. Common sense tells me that they don't work. So why do people still believe the idea that those policies save lives? Actual common sense is holding criminals accountable, not letting them out of jail or encouraging them to be more confrontational. Common sense is not stealing the right of the American people to protect themselves. This is the message that America needs to hear.
The DC Project works to reduce firearm accidents by campaigning for education in schools. We counter the false gun control lies by testifying in hearings and meeting our legislators. We equip our friends, our families, and our communities to know the truth. Gun owners are good people.
America is a beacon of freedom. The Second Amendment is vital piece in ensuring that our kids can have a free country to grow up in. We stand with the lawmakers who support the Constitution, and we provide armor from the attacks by the gun control lobby.
Join the DC Project today. Become a member, donate, or subscribe to our newsletter for updates on how we educate, advocate, and preserve our Second Amendment rights for generations to come.
When people use a firearm in self-defense, they could be arrested or sued and face extensive legal costs. Firearms Legal Protection provides uncapped legal defense for any member who uses a legal weapon in defense of themselves or others, providing members with peace of mind in these difficult situations by covering all attorney fees and other benefits. Use code EOTT at firearmslegal.com for a discount on all membership plans. Protect yourself. We'll protect you.
stand by.
You hit the radio bullseye. And the home for everything Second Amendment, concealed carry, the latest gear, reciprocity, legislation, the right to self-protection, and it shall not be infringed. This is Eye on the Target Radio with your hosts, Rob and Amanda.
So, hey folks, how is everybody doing?
I'm doing great. This last couple days here, it's almost been like California Christmas.
It's tropical in Ohio. Is that where you're going with this?
It had to be probably 60 degrees last night after dark, so it was.
We'll take that. We'll take that. It's December and it's still tropical. There is all of that. Yes, exactly. So I've been out and about doing a variety of things, but one of the things that I have heard all over the place is that ammo prices are going to start moving, and that is a big conversation.
That's 'cause we're sending all of our gunpowder and primers and stuff to the Ukraine and the Israel. So.
Mm-hmm. So we had a shortage of ammo in 2008. We had a shortage of ammo in 2013, and those ran for years.
Well, and then we've also had record gun sales for the last couple years. So if everybody there just bought a couple boxes of bullets to go with their new gun, there's record ammo sales to go along with the record gun sales.
Yeah, exactly.
They're not saying it, but it's got to be an actual fact that
well, and yeah, because you start to look at it and you're like, okay, and there's so many of us who for a while, I mean, because there's like two types of gun buyers. There's the guy who buys a gun and buys 2 boxes of ammo, and then when he shoots that up, he buys 2 boxes of ammo, and when he shoots that up, and then there's the other ones
that moves the wife's car out of the garage and has the ammo delivered with the lift truck. So
exactly, saying, wait, if I can afford this, if the delivery fee is X, and it's not anymore if I buy 2X, right? We're going to go there.
I can fit 4 kids in the spot where their old car used to be.
Yeah, where my former wife.
You're parking outside.
Where my former wife used to park, because she has since left me. Right there is. I mean, I could see that conversation. I can, but no. So because of the ammo shortages in 2008 that ran for till 2010 or 11.
Funny is because we had those ammo shortages, and we're like, how come somebody doesn't get in the business to do that? And then the next ammo shortage hit, and it's like, how come somebody doesn't get in the business to head that off? And then the record gun sales and that, and it's like, why isn't there more gun manufacturers? And then there was primer shortage for a long time that drove primer prices.
Right. So even if you could be an ammo manufacturer, they depended on primer manufacturers. So they were starving to death.
Right. I can remember one time I broke a spring in my reloading machine, and it's guaranteed with the no BS warranty, they call it. So
right.
You just call them, and they'll send you out a bag of whatever parts.
Yeah, you outline. You tell them the parts, and they'll get them for you.
So they, I tried to call, and the phones were always busy. It didn't matter, middle of the night, daytime. So I looked up their local number in the phone book on the internet, and then I called. I talked to the one lady in the office, and she's like, I have no idea what part you need. I said, I have the part number if that would help you. So like 2 days later, I got an envelope, just a regular white
office envelope
with 4 or 5 of those springs in the bottom of it.
So she
went out in the shop, got me some.
She's like, I need a couple of these. I got a customer, and so it wasn't the customer service people, but it was great.
But, I mean,
customer
and that's
service.
why I have 10 of those machines, because it truly is
10.
No BS.
10. We're gonna say that it's really kind of funny.
As the kids moved out, I just kind of took over their bedrooms, and I have multiple machines.
Made it. So what's really is that people will be like, "Oh, those are reloads," and it's like there's reloads. There's the guy with the little machine and the little scoop and the little scale, and Then there's the machine that will run on its own
Makes
till it
ammo
runs
that
out of
looks
stuff.
exactly like the factory ammo you bought at the store, because it pretty much is.
I'm just saying that the machine that will run on its own, right? So
Just keep filling the hoppers and
yeah, stand back. Stay exactly. So it's going to be an interesting place right now, but I'm going to give all you guys a heads up that if you are running short on ammo, think about buying a little bit now. If you are a reloader, go do an inventory, check your supplies, make a Christmas list, tell your family that you need primers or brass or
gift cards that will allow that stuff or whatever.
right. I want a gift card to the powder store.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Because you don't want them to pick it.
Yeah, and that's funny is I have friends. I mean, I've been loading since 1970. So
Mhm.
I have a lot of reloading friends, and it's some of them. It's like that. Back in the day, their mom would be like, "That stuff will create dust to blow us up." So she'd only let them have like 1 pound of gunpowder at a time or something. Other ones are like, they're so worried about it, they got this can and they put it in a wooden box, and they put that in a metal box, they put that in a wooden box, and then
Well,
bury it in the yard.
it really depends on whether your guy's safe or whether he's one of those guys that kind of smokes off in the corner. Those all have meaning.
But yeah, it's
Right?
just funny. I know some people that are just so worried about it that they only buy just a little bit at a time, and others that the local fire department would freak out if they see
So those people are dollar cost averaging because they're just, my ammo is whatever my ammo is, however that goes, and other people are hoarders.
We buy. I mean, for a long time, I was buying guns just to make ammo because it's fun. I mean, so I would buy a gun that they haven't made ammo for since the First World War or something, and then I would make the brass case, and I would get it together and make it so we could shoot it some. And it's kind of surprising. I mean, I have a Italian Bodeo pistol. It's the most unergonomic pistol you've ever used. I don't know what.
It's worse than the one with no trigger guard and the fold out trigger.
Well, this does have a fold-out trigger.
Oh,
like that,
okay. So yes, it does win.
It's like a broomstick with a fold-out trigger, and you got to have like osteoarthritis or something to get your hand in that position to be able to pull the trigger. And then the thing's probably got a 28-pound trigger pull. But I loaded some ammo for it, and it was amazingly accurate. I mean, once you got the hang of how to make it, I was like, "Wow, this thing is unbelievable!" But it was just so funny.
That is absolutely hysterical. So a friend of ours a friend of the show is putting out the name of another friend of the show, thegunfood.com. And Patrick, he's based in the Atlanta area, and yes, he's definitely one of the guys that he can make it so easy that it'll just drop ship to your front door.
Right.
You got to have an adult, and somebody needs to sign for it. But other than that, you got to pretend like you're an adult at least, right? Something in that arena for adulting.
Sometimes like that, if nothing else, you could get your local gun shop, or if you have a friend who has a landscaping business or something, and he's got a secretary there that's all the time. Talk to him. You can ship it there, and then they'll sign for it, and you pick it up at that point instead of worrying about I have to stay home for the next 3 days because I don't know when my shipment's coming.
Right. So John Petrolino is commenting on your beard trim.
I had a minor mishap with my furnace.
This is a story, kids. This is the don't play with things. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was playing around with my furnace, and I was having some igniter issues, and I finally got it to light, and then it blew up on me.
Your face was in the way. So he calls me and he's like, "My beard is crooked and I'm missing an eyebrow, but other than that, we're fine." The house didn't burn down.
I got a little bit of a sunburn on the edge of my nose too, but
Then he had to go. Then he had to go to the beard trimming gal and say, "Can you balance this up? Because this side's a little short."
It smelled like a electrocuted squirrel too.
No, that's bad. But the fact that he actually, we trust him to fix things, that sometimes concerns me. But good eye there, Mr. Petrolino, in catching that. I'm sure you hadn't heard the story because we've kept it kind of close to our vest. I'm surprised that you actually even offered it up.
You can't go wrong with a good story. That's all.
Right. So
the truth is always the best.
Right. Right. So we'll take comments for anybody who has lit their beard on fire. Right? I don't know. That is just crazy. But yeah, one of our Massachusetts friends says it's wicked easy to order from the gun food.
Wicked easy.
Wicked easy. And he ships even to occupied territory. So we'll be back.
Okay, you ask yourself, who is this Realize Firearms Awareness Coalition and what do they do? Realize Firearms Awareness Coalition is a not-for-profit group based in Portage County, registered as a 501c3 and organized to educate about the historical intent of the Second Amendment to the Constitution of the United States of America, to share knowledge, to enable citizens to accurately relate and defend aspects of the U.S. Constitution, to enhance public awareness and support for responsible gun ownership, and to emphasize firearms education for women who facilitate the transmittal of constitutional awareness and gun ownership to succeeding generations. How do they intend to do that? By talking to you all and having you talk back, by hosting educational summits and events. So tune in, listen, and participate. RealizeFAC.com.
Your front door, your car, your gun. Safety is a habit. Gun safety and responsible storage are no different, and the best way to help prevent accidents, misuse, and theft. Cable locks help keep firearms secured. Learn how to get a free firearm safety kit. Visit projectchildsafe.org. If you have a firearm, own it, respect it, and secure it. Brought to you by the National Shooting Sports Foundation and the Bureau of Justice Assistance.
I'm Charlie Cook from Riding Shotgun with Charlie. Conversations in the car about gun safety, freedoms, and even a few laughs. Imagine you're in the back seat listening to an intimate chat with me and my passengers as we drive all around the country. Listen, watch, and subscribe to the Riding Shotgun with Charlie YouTube channel and podcast.
Grab your friends and head to Georgia to train with the Complete Combatant. The Complete Combatant offers a unique approach to self-defense training, layering the first signs of danger, lethal versus non-lethal decisions, and even surviving the aftermath. They offer premier firearms training with a range master certified instructor and host the top minds in our industry. See the courses offered on thecompletecombatant.com. That's thecompletecombatant.com.
Are you interested in firearms? Are you looking for a resource to help you understand guns? Trying to help someone who's new to the world of shooting? Hi, I'm John Petrolino, 2A writer and the author of Decoding Firearms, an easy-to-read guide on general gun safety and use. Decoding Firearms is a comprehensive book with 266 pages of information. Want to learn more? Visit thepenpatriot.com or get yours today on Amazon in paperback or Kindle.
Ladies, ever wish you could find a brand that understood the difference between feminine and functional? A brand that didn't make you choose between looking good and looking tough? Check out offhandgear.com, a brand designed by a gun girl / mom that closed the gap to give you feminine, durable, functional gear. Offhandgear.com, the brand that gets you.
We all know rust is bad. To help keep rust from forming on your firearms, tools, and other ferrous-based items, you want to have Rust is Bad in your gun-safe toolbox and anywhere you want to be rust-free. Rust is Bad bolsters and G-strings deposit small, safe particles that coat your rust-vulnerable items. Save your valuable items with Rust is Bad. Go to www.eyeonthetargetradio.com and follow the link for more information. That's www.eyeonthetargetradio.com for Rust is Bad.
Okay, we are back, and so there's getting some comments on Rob's beard, because Rob has had the amazing beard of the century, and people have opinions on it for darn sure.
Think about it. It's middle of December right now. I'll be going to Florida in the end of February. So me and Sona, I'll give him a head start, and me and Sona can see if Kevin can.
He says his beard's longer than yours now, so we'll see.
So we'll see what it's like by the end of February.
Okay, got it. Oh, there you go, Kevin Sona. So let's talk about Kevin. Kevin is I don't know, founder is going to be the word I'm using. Founder of an event called the 2A Freedom Fest. And Rob and I have gone to it for several years, and we love it. So Runaway Campers in Summerfield, Florida is the host of this event for the Second Amendment folks in the northwestern Florida area, not in the Panhandle, but in the body of it. If you want to go to Facebook, and it is under 2A Freedom Fest, has its own page, but and Kevin will post it in the show notes. But it is on Saturday, February 24th. Rob and I were actually making travel arrangements today talking about this, because it's not that far away. Right? When you're talking about something that's out of state, you need more than like 2 days worth of planning. So we've got this put together. But so what happens at the Freedom Fest is that there are a wide variety of Second Amendment advocates. Frankly, they come from all over the country and have a little bit of time on stage, talk about what's happening, what's going on, what the impact is to Florida, what the impact is to all of us in the Second Amendment world. You get to see some of your writer heroes.
They were beating the drum, and then right afterwards, everybody went to Florida Capitol to
testify to
get their law changed, and they're actually making things happen.
Right. So they're permitless carry, because they are on the list as a constitutional carry state, but the Florida folks are like, it is not quite constitutional carry. So when you say that, they make that deep throat noise.
So, anyhow, you wanted to talk about historical firearms again, because we don't cover that too much.
We don't, but you told me.
If I had some idea what people wanted to hear about, we could talk about things, but I don't really need a lot of head start.
So send us a message, and we'll talk about whatever it is that you've got shoved in your safe.
Yesterday morning on the way to work, the local gun shop sent me some pictures, and I was like, what is this, and is it worth something? And they sent me a 1873 Springfield rifle and a carbine, pictures of it. And so I told them the rifle is okay. There's people that want them, but they're hard to sell. But the carbine is rare, and if it's a real carbine, people want that. So I had to ask him a couple questions.
So the 1873 Springfield. So you're looking to see if they're
starting in the Civil War, they were using a 61 and a 63 Springfield, and basically the difference between those was the barrel length. They decided that they didn't really need this big long 40-inch barrel, so they cut it back to 33 for the 63 model. After the war, they had millions of these things, and they didn't know what to do with them. So the government was trying to find a way to convert to cartridge guns, because cartridges were a winner during the war. They realized this. So fixed cartridges were in. They just didn't know exactly what a fixed cartridge was at the time.
We don't know what it looks like. It could be a rimfire. It could be a pinfire.
There were so many different styles and kinds of them. They just knew that it was going to be a winner. So if you had a good idea, they would give you some 61 or 63 Springfields for you to experiment with, and then if you had a good plan, they would possibly buy it from you and continue on. Well, lots of people had good plans, but this guy named Allen, who worked for the government, he had a good enough plan that the government didn't have to pay him for it.
Okay, so it wasn't the great plan, but it was good enough, and it was
Right.
the price was
Well,
right
the price was
because
right.
we were
So-
already paying his salary, so he didn't get money.
Right, so they used the same action, the same wood, same barrel. They just cut the back of it off, and then they put this breech block in place, and then they converted it to originally it was a 58 caliber rimfire gun, and they didn't like that, so they decided the 50-70 government was going to be the thing. So the first of those, they actually sleeved the barrel and soldered a new liner into it. And so if you have one of these, it's called an 1860 66 model, and the top of the breech block is actually screwed into the barrel. You'll know where the later models, the action is one piece and the barrel screwed into it, but these are screwed onto the top of the barrel, and then they have a liner that's slid into the barrel. You can see it from the end. It's some of them, they look crooked and everything, but anyhow, those are the original, the first ones. Then the second model, they made the barrel as a factory made at 50 caliber.
So they're sitting there right now. They're still out there. They're 150 years old, and they have value.
Oh, yeah, and there's a lot of different ones. You'll find them at yard sales, and I mean, I bought a couple of them at some gun shows, at auctions, and stuff like this. But by the 1870s, we were moving west at a pretty good clip. They decided that the 50-70 didn't have the long-range trajectory that they wanted, so they went down to the 45-70, which was the government cartridge for a long time, and now it's making a comeback. It's everybody use it for deer hunting, but it's a super cartridge. But anyhow, the 1873 model was the first model that was specifically built for that cartridge, and so
Okay, so we're gonna break this story in the half because we're gonna get to a commercial break, and I don't want you to shorten it up. So right now in this story, you gave us the backstory to how we got to 1873, and they have two guns. So they have a carbine and then they have a rifle, right?
Right.
And so someone, to give you the story, someone went to the local gun shop and says, I have these two and I'd like to sell them. Well, the gun shop doesn't know anything about them. They don't know the history. They don't know any of that. And that's where Rob comes in. We'll be back right after these messages to tell you more.
Grab your
Says
friends
that
and head to
Feinstein claimed
Georgia
that
to
she
train
was an
with the
expert on
Complete
guns because
Combatant.
she'd seen
The Complete
thousands of
Combatant
pictures of
offers
them.
a unique approach to self-defense
And then he
training,
went on to say
layering the first signs of danger.
that may make him a gynecologist because pictures, We'll just move on from that.
See the courses offered on thecompletecombatant.com. That's thecompletecombatant.com.
Are you interested in firearms? Are you looking for a resource to help you understand guns? Trying to help someone who's new to the world of shooting? Hi, I'm John Petrolino, 2A writer and the author of Decoding Firearms, an easy-to-read guide on general gun safety and use. Decoding Firearms is a comprehensive book with 266 pages of information. Want to learn more? Visit thepenpatriot.com or get yours today on Amazon in paperback or Kindle.
Okay, you ask yourself, who is this Realize Firearms Awareness Coalition, and what do they do? Realize Firearms Awareness Coalition is a not-for-profit group based in Portage County, registered as a 501c3, and organized to educate about the historical intent of the Second Amendment to the Constitution of the United States of America, to share knowledge, to enable citizens to accurately relate and defend aspects of the U.S. Constitution, to enhance public awareness and support for responsible gun ownership, and to emphasize firearms education for women who facilitate the transmittal of constitutional awareness and gun ownership to succeeding generations. How do they intend to do that? By talking to you all and having you talk back, by hosting educational summits and events. So tune in, listen, and participate. RealizeFAC.com.
This is Cheryl Todd of Gun Freedom Radio, and I am proud to join Amanda Suffolcool and all the 50 women, one from each state, in our grassroots efforts to protect the Second Amendment as delegates of the DC Project. Grassroots organizations like the DC Project run on donations, so please consider donating to our GoFundMe/DC Project to keep the promise of freedom alive.
I'm Charlie Cook from Riding Shotgun with Charlie. Conversations in the car about gun safety, freedoms, and even a few laughs. Imagine you're in the back seat listening to an intimate chat with me and my passengers as we drive all around the country. Listen, watch, and subscribe to the Riding Shotgun with Charlie YouTube channel and podcast.
Ladies, ever wish you could find a brand that understood the difference between feminine and functional? A brand that didn't make you choose between looking good and looking tough. Check out offhandgear.com, a brand designed by a gun girl / mom that closed the gap to give you feminine, durable, functional gear. Offhandgear.com, the brand that gets you.
Your front door, your car, your gun. Safety is a habit. Gun safety and responsible storage are no different, and the best way to help prevent accidents, misuse, and theft. Cable locks help keep firearms secured. Learn how to get a free firearm safety kit. Visit projectchildsafe.org. If you have a firearm, own it, respect it, and secure it. Brought to you by the National Shooting Sports Foundation and the Bureau of Justice Assistance.
So we are back and continuing the story of the 73 Springfield carbines. So the funny part is that the local gun shops know that they have like a speed dial superpower that they just call you or text
a lot of
you.
times I just get a picture on a text, and then it's like, tell me about this.
And you're like, I don't even know what the
And then
what's the
sometimes it's like
backstory.
And I don't know if they're fixing it, they're needing it, if they're buying it, or what's going on. So then I just gotta tell them. And sometimes I'll say they need a price, or they need to know where they can get a part for it, or whatever it is.
Right.
And sometimes it's like I'll send back. I need to see a back sight, or I need this. Or, it's
Okay.
like this 73.
Okay.
So the rifle, you see, it used to be for years they were $500. There was lots of them. You could.
Okay.
The price has slowly gone up to where now I see them selling them in the $800 to $1,200 range, depending on the condition and stuff. The carbines are kind of rare, and especially in that series, they made the 73s. They made an 1878 model.
Oh, okay. So you only got 5 years of the 73 before they moved on.
Right, and so the 73 ones are the ones that Custer and his men were carrying at the Little Bighorn. And so some of those in that Custer range hold a significant spot in history. And so if you happen to get one of those that the Indians turned back in or were captured back from the Indians.
So, and there's provenance. So there's people who, they know which guns went
Right,
there.
they know the guns that were issued to Custer and his men at that time.
Oh, I
so
get
they have these
goosebumps.
blocks, they have these blocks of serial numbers. If you're looking for these guns, and they know which ones are there. But yeah. So anyhow, he showed me these pictures, and the rifle's the rifle, but the carbine, I'm like, it's valuable, and depending on what it's doing, it goes from $1,500 to $4,500 for
And you're
a
like,
carbine.
if it's real.
If it's real, and that's the thing. So you have to look at these things. The carbines had a butt plate that has a little trap door for the cleaning rod, so it didn't have room for a ramrod in the front. They had a bar type of a saddle ring on them so that you could hook it to your horse or to yourself so you didn't drop it.
Okay.
They had the back sight was actually stamped with the C for carbine versus a rifle sight, and then the forearm on a real carbine isn't drilled for a ramrod, where a lot of them that were cut down afterwards because people realized that the carbines sold better than the others, so they would cut them down.
Let's just make one.
They would just make them. So you'll find a lot of them that they look like a carbine, but they don't have all of the right features.
So they don't have the little C. They don't. They do have the ramrod hole.
Right. They don't have the trapdoor butt plate or something and stuff. So you need to know what you're looking for on some of this stuff. And then they have also, if you're going to shoot the guns, they have high arch and low arch breech blocks in these. And a high arch breech block has a big, as it says, a high arch
on it.
And if you're shooting modern loads in it, that arch will allow it to flex, and the action will pop open, and then it hits you in the head with stuff. So
explosion stuff, not just stuff.
Yeah, you don't. So you don't want to shoot a high arch gun. If you are going to shoot your high arch gun, buy a breech block with a low arch and change it out while you're shooting it, and then keep the other one for when you're reselling it or something.
Wowza! So okay, so you walked him through all of this,
right?
And what did they have?
Well, I didn't get the serial number of the thing and that, but it was a real carbine, and so I don't know if he was buying it or not, but I'll know in the couple days when he.
So then you'll know the rest of the story.
Because he wants to know he'll want to know where he can get the maximum money out of that when he gets custom. But I mean, I get a lot of times they'll send me pictures of stuff. One they sent me was a picture of a Browning high power, and so having to know when it was built by the Germans, or if it was built by the Belgians, or if it was built by who and what and when, and so knowing I need to see like the back of the grip where the stock would hook on. I need to see the back sight. I need to see a couple things. They sent me a Walther PK one day. I needed to see what the stamp remarks were, like on the front of the grip and the little Nazi dirty birds that are on it to see which manufacturing plants and stuff like that.
Where it was made, what okay.
It's kind of funny when you look at them, they all look the same unless you know exactly what mark you're looking for.
I'm there. I have been with you in gun shops, and you're like, walk over there, buy that, and just buy it. I'm like, what? No, just buy it, right? Or I saw you with your wife one day, and you're like to her, hold your hand up at this auction until you own it. Yeah. And there wasn't any conversation. But at other times, you can't buy it, because if you buy it, somebody outbids you because they don't know what.
Right. I mean, that's the thing is I get people that just watch me and try to buy it before I get it or something. And so
I think the best was a guy who then called you. He outbid you. He got something, and then he called you and says, "Okay, what did I win?"
Right. And I get other ones that call me and say, I was at a gun shop and they have blah, blah, blah. And so I get the heads up for a 75-mile radius on really cool stuff.
Right.
They're not interested, but they know I am.
There is that. Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty funny seeing that.
Well, we went the one time to a gun shop, and there was a Mauser. There was a Holland & Holland Mauser takedown gun that was on the shelf, and so we bought that, and they were so rare that there's no pictures of them. There's only hand drawings of what a Mauser takedown gun looks like. It's not that you just find them somewhere there.
Right. Okay.
So this one was in 318 Accelerated Express, and which is basically a 3006 338 Wildcat that the English used.
Okay.
And we bought it and then gave it to my dad, and over the years he had traded it for something or moved it on. I don't know where it went to, but it was definitely a weirdo, and I had seen one at one time with my real eyeballs.
With your real eyeballs, and that's the funny thing. I mean, there's let's talk, because we haven't talked about it lately. Let's talk Wildcat. What does Wildcat really mean to our listeners?
Well, a Wildcat cartridge is a cartridge that is off the standard of the SAMI book. So if the Sporting Arms and Ammunition Manufacturers thing doesn't recognize it, but people are using it, they call it a Wildcat. So some of the things that you recognize today, like the 22-250, was originally a Wildcat cartridge. It got made into a legitimate cartridge in 1964.
So SAMI, the SAAMI. So the
right.
What does it stand for?
Sporting Arms and Ammunition Manufacturing
Industry.
Right. So they're the ones that set the standards of what the pressure should be, what the cartridge case length and angles and all that stuff. So that
if
when
they see an experimental one that looks like it's getting traction, they will go, let's interview these
the 300
people.
Blackout is one. It started out as a 300 Whisper and a 300 AAC, and it had about 9 different names. It was basically just a 223 cutoff, necked up to 30 caliber with this little shoulder on it. And so they eventually legitimized it into the Blackout, and now you can just go to the store and buy 300 Blackout ammo. But before that, 9 different companies made the same cartridge, just different names on it.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And some of the other ones are the same way. That the 2506 was once a Wildcat cartridge. There's a what's going on?
Keep talking. It looks like
some of the stuff is working and some of it's not. Huh?
Right. Well, it looks
anyhow,
like we still have internet here, but we don't have internet there. So.
Right, so anyhow, once somebody starts shooting something, they like it for a little while, or they use it for a specific cartridge for, say, some kind of hunting event, or for a silhouette shooting. Back in the day, made a lot of cartridges that were Wildcats, 3844 Bain & Davis. There was some 7 millimeter. I can't think what to call it. It was a 3030 that was back then a 7 millimeter Waters, I believe they called it.
Okay.
Eventually, it got made into a regular cartridge, and Winchester made their their lever action 94s in it. It's actually a pretty good cartridge. It shoots a 28 caliber bullet in a 3030 case, and that. It's just how everybody wants something different, and sometimes they're reinventing the wheel. I mean, if you look at these 6.5 Creedmoor cartridge, and then you look at like the 6.5 by 50 Japanese, ballistically they're identical. So why do we need the new one versus why don't we just use the old one? But we just everybody wants to get their name on something.
Yeah, I know. So here's the question. Creedmoor. Who is Creedmoor?
No, Creedmoor was a shooting center in New York. That's why back in the day when the NRA was popular in 1871 there in New York, they were shooting at shoots-and fests at Creedmoor and stuff like this. And they have Creedmoor matches and different things like this. You'll see some of the pictures like this, hand drawings of like guys laying down with a Remington rolling block or a Hepburn, and they got the muzzle propped between their 2 toes, and they're like twisted up on it like a snake as they're trying to
hold it. Yeah,
they're trying to shoot 1,000 yards back in the day, where they had to hold 85 inches high or something to get the bullet to fall in place.
And they weren't allowed to use anything but them.
Right, they have like 17-second bullet flight time or something between when it leaves the muzzle or gets where they're going.
Telling you, that's brutal though. When you look at some of those pictures, you're like, this does not look like a hobby that I want to
because
take up
the
to.
thing about it, today, the lock time on a gun is so precise. So for the time you pull the trigger to the firing pin hits, it's a split second. Where back in the day, all that working mechanism, it took it some time.
It took some time. We'll be back right after this.
Your front door, your car, your gun. Safety is a habit. Gun safety and responsible storage are no different, and the best way to help prevent accidents, misuse, and theft. Cable locks help keep firearms secured. Learn how to get a free firearm safety kit. Visit projectchildsafe.org. If you have a firearm, own it, respect it, and secure it. Brought to you by the National Shooting Sports Foundation and the Bureau of Justice Assistance.
Hi, I'm Janelle Westrom, owner of Davenport Guns and Davenport Shooting Club. At Davenport Guns, we do so much more than sell firearms. We advocate for increased personal safety and security, not just for you, but your whole family and community. Go to davenportguns.com to see our online inventory and browse videos, articles, and things we just find entertaining. Sign up for our newsletter to learn more.
This is Cheryl Todd of Gun Freedom Radio, and I am proud to join Amanda Suffolcool and all the 50 women, one from each state, in our grassroots efforts to protect the Second Amendment as delegates of the DC Project. Grassroots organizations like the DC Project run on donations, so please consider donating to our GoFundMe/DC Project to keep the promise of freedom alive.
Ladies, ever wish you could find a brand that understood the difference between feminine and functional? A brand that didn't make you choose between looking good and looking tough. Check out offhandgear.com, a brand designed by a gun girl/mom that closed the gap to give you feminine, durable, functional gear. Offhandgear.com, the brand that gets you.
Okay, you ask yourself, who is this Realize Firearms Awareness Coalition and what do they do? Realize Firearms Awareness Coalition is a not-for-profit group based in Portage County, registered as a 501c3 and organized to educate about the historical intent of the Second Amendment to the Constitution of the United States of America, to share knowledge, to enable citizens to accurately relate and defend aspects of the U.S. Constitution, to enhance public awareness and support for responsible gun ownership, and to emphasize firearms education for women who facilitate the transmittal of constitutional awareness and gun ownership to succeeding generations. How do they intend to do that? By talking to you all and having you talk back, by hosting educational summits and events. So tune in, listen, and participate. RealizeFAC.com.
Shotgun with Charlie. I'm Charlie Cook from Riding Shotgun with Charlie. Conversations in the car about gun safety, freedoms, and even a few laughs. Imagine you're in the back seat listening to an intimate chat with me and my passengers as we drive all around the country. Listen, watch, and subscribe to the Riding Shotgun with Charlie YouTube channel and podcast.
Are you interested in firearms? Are you looking for a resource to help you understand guns? Trying to help someone who's new to the world of shooting? Hi, I'm John Petrolino, 2A writer and the author of Decoding Firearms, an easy-to-read guide on general gun safety and use. Decoding Firearms is a comprehensive book with 266 pages of information. Want to learn more? Visit thepenpatriot.com or get yours today on Amazon in paperback or Kindle.
Okay, so, you know, the great thing about this past week, well, this past couple weeks, is that I got to go training. And I got to go training, and then I got to go training. And so it's been...
Well, the weather's nice, right?
Yeah, it's been fabulous. So I talked last week about the fact that I had gone to Range Ready, which is where I brought you back a souvenir hat.
Look at that hat. Ooh,
yeah, look at that. Look at that hat. Right? So Range Ready
it's
down
white,
in...
so I'll only wear it here in the studio. It'll be black in about an hour.
It'll still not survive the encounter.
It'll have cement dust or something on it.
Couple
Spider
fingerprints.
web or...
Got it. But Range Ready in Rogers, Louisiana was where I was a week ago. And then I ate my way across New Orleans. Right? So it was fabulous. Fabulous. Then on Saturday I headed down to oh darn it, where was it? It's in Ohio. It's the Cowboy Action Shooting Tusco. So I was at Tusco, the Tusco range, for a Revere Riders.
You know, before the
event.
Cowboy Action guys got a hold of it, it was known because it was the only 1,000-yard range around here that every place else they built a house somewhere between you and 1,000 yards.
Are they? Do they still have 1,000 yards?
I don't know if they do or not. I just know that was the place where you used to go was to shoot the 1,000 yards.
Okay, I went there and shot indoors, so I didn't see any of that. But I went to go back to, they were teaching Revere's Riders is a historical, it's firearms safety, and it's a historical event. So what they try to do is they try to mix the history of our nation, the history of firearms, all into the event. So it was kind of cool.
Historically, there wasn't a lot of firearm safety in history.
Don't tell the guys who ran a cold range. We're just gonna say that I try very hard to go when I go to a class to say, what's your range, what's your rules? Okay, I'm a rule follower. I will abide by whatever those are. Some of them I'm like, cold ranges are one of those where I have to work so hard to not be the instructor, not have an opinion. Tell me what you want me to do. Okay, there's a red line there. I stay on this side of it. Got it.
People get hurt with empty guns.
They run a cold range and you're not touching it. It's extremely safe. I'm not making fun of that by any means at all. But it was interesting because I don't care how much you shoot. Just going back to focus on the fundamentals, and then having an opportunity to shoot with somebody who's brand new, who is focusing on the fundamentals, is really a good place to be. And so I spent a little time focusing on the fundamentals, and I realized a couple things.
There's a reason why they're the fundamentals, because all of a sudden when you focus on them, you can hit stuff.
Well, I got to that, but what I realized is my eye doctor has been calling me saying, hey, it's about time for you to come back in for a new appointment.
And I can't see nothing.
And so when I switched to actually looking at a target and then looking at the front sight and then looking at the back sight, I have for quite a while had to be like, focus on the front sight. So I would do in my head, I would do this chant of front sight, back sight, target, front sight, back sight, target, so that I looked at all of them and didn't just miss one, right? And I realized when I got to this class that it was, I can't see the front sight, I can't see the back sight, I can't see the target.
I shoot with a couple of old geezers like myself, and it's like, hold on, I got to change to my shooting whatever, the contact lenses or this and that. It's like,
I'm like,
what are you gonna do? Call time out in the middle of the night when somebody's coming at you?
Well, somebody at the thing says, well, have you thought about getting those blended progressive lenses? And I was like, yeah, got those. I'm thinking things are moving, things have shifted. So folks, here's another public service announcement. When was the last time you had your eyes checked? And maybe you want to, because I'm gonna. There is that. So the great news was, it didn't take me long before I trained my head what the blobs ought to look like. And so then once I identified where on the blob I was trying to shoot, and so that I didn't blend blobs, then so they had us shoot the qualification.
I'm looking at this blob and shooting that blob.
Well, there was some of that. And oh, by the way, the gun shoots a little bit high at that distance. It was shooting like an inch high. So there was that. So now here's the blob that I can't see, and here's where, and I say that because
most handguns are sighted in at about a 25-yard range, which for the average person is way too far for them to see what's going on.
Okay.
Most people shoot in that 21 to 25 foot range.
Right.
And so your gun's
shoot
plan on shooting 3 times that far. So
it may be the thing.
But a lot of times, like even with the sight cranked all the way down, you're not going to get down to that spot to where it's going to be.
Yeah, it was an amazing event, and I'm going to tell you that these guys were so good. Yeah, so I did so here's what happened is we shot a sample of the qualifier, and I got a 40 out of 50. And then we were talking and we had a little bit more time, and they were like, well, we could do some fun stuff or we could go back and do the qualifier again, because the rest of them were shooting it today, as they had all day today to work through it. And I was like, I can't come back today. So they shifted their program just a little bit and allowed the group to reshoot it. And I have to say that I got, it's pretty crazy, because I got a 48 out of 50. So I got, like, I didn't get a perfect score. I have to say that I had the target and I used every bit of that target. So when you look at it, whatever they gave me, I used it all. And my bullets were hanging off the edges, kind of thing, you know? Do they count? They're counting by kind of like by the skin of their little bullety teeth.
Fingernail.
They were really hanging on. And so I got a 40 out of 50, and the last point, people were looking at it, and everybody, they got out their little template and they were checking it. They were trying so hard. It was that close. And I feel really good about getting 48 out of 50. If they'd have given me that extra because it was that close to the line, I don't know that I would have felt quite as positive, because when you look at, I posted it on my Facebook page. So if you guys are doing, I posted it on my Facebook page. It's a hot mess, right?
Wait till you get your eyes fixed.
I am all over the target. I used all the target. So I'm going to tell you, though, I'm going back. I recommend you go back, or you go and look up Revere's Riders. And as I understand it, they're in 5 states now, and they're expanding across the United States. And so it was a great day. It was a great focus on the fundamentals. Just and it's that thing where you get an opportunity to interact with people who care about the Constitution, who care about history and the creation of the United States. They care about the Second Amendment.
You get to meet other people who are gun people,
and they're donating their time, and they're working with people. And there was a gal there that had just got a gun. This was her second weekend shooting, and she got all 10 bullets on her target. And I was more excited for her doing that than I was for, it was just, I forgot how much I just absolutely love that feeling. So go look them up. Revere's Riders. We'll be back right after the commercial break.
Okay, you ask yourself, who is this Realize Firearms Awareness Coalition, and what do they do? Realize Firearms Awareness Coalition is a not-for-profit group based in Portage County, registered as a 501c3, and organized to educate about the historical intent of the Second Amendment to the Constitution of the United States of America, to share knowledge, to enable citizens to accurately relate and defend aspects of the U.S. Constitution, to enhance public awareness and support for responsible gun ownership, and to emphasize firearms education for women who facilitate the transmittal of constitutional awareness and gun ownership to succeeding generations. How do they intend to do that? By talking to you all and having you talk back, by hosting educational summits and events. So tune in, listen, and participate. RealizeFAC.com.
When people use a firearm in self-defense, they could be arrested or sued and face extensive legal costs. Firearms Legal Protection provides uncapped legal defense for any member who uses a legal weapon in defense of themselves or others, providing members with peace of mind in these difficult situations by covering all attorney fees and other benefits. Use code EOTT at firearmslegal.com for a discount on all membership plans. Protect yourself. We'll protect you.
to self-protection, and it shall not be infringed. This is Eye on the Target Radio with your hosts, Rob and Amanda.
Okay, welcome to hour 2 of Eye on the Target Radio. And so let's start into the news, because we've gone a whole hour and well, we talked about what we talked about, but it doesn't have to be, sometimes it just has to be about things, right?
Right.
Yeah, I don't know. So a week after a federal district court judge ruled on the 18 to 20-year-old adults buying guns from FFLs, a week after they ruled that it was unconstitutional, the same judge then said, wait, hold on. So they stayed their decision, which is they just took it, put it on the shelf, and said, never mind. And so they ruled on it. So you know where his head was. And then he was like, okay, wait, we're going to wait. And so the Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals is now hearing it. So it is working its way up. And we've talked about this before. I fully believe that the Bruin decision is going to make it to where 18-year-olds, 17-year-olds,
13-year-olds, 12-year-olds.
Well, you know, you and I disagree on that to a point, because my thought process is that it will be that the federal government says that when your state, in the state's rights,
well, you can get married at 13 and then you'd be able to buy a gun. So
right, when your state's rights say you're an adult, then the federal says, okay, yes. And if the state says that you are under dominion of your parents, then they're going to be like, okay, that's your parental responsibility. So guess what? Bruin inadvertently is going to head toward parental responsibility, criminal reform. It's going to be the gift that keeps on giving.
Well, and there's so many gray areas in this, because currently the law says that if you're a juvenile and you need a gun, that your job has to issue you one, or you can get one from your parents.
Right.
So it isn't like you're blocked from having one. You just can't buy your own.
You can't buy your own. So there is that. But so this judge did the
Makes
one
you wonder,
hand,
though,
then
like,
the
why
other
would you
hand.
say
Right?
okay and then stop it? That's
He went
the thing.
okay, and then he went never.
It sounds to me like
right? Yeah. Yeah. So no, he did the whole never mind right after he did that. Yeah. Crazy.
But yeah, Bruin will make it all better.
It'll be good. But it's really interesting. So we're watching the arguments, and we're watching the.
I watch the liberal news media, and they're so freaked out about the Supreme Court now hearing about the Rahimi and his
Rahimi, which is it's really a due process case, because accusations don't make for guilty until, well, they do make for guilty until proven innocent, which really is not the American
mantra. If the court says that you are guilty, then I can see where you're not allowed to have a gun at that point. But when someone just says, well, he's a bad guy, until the court hears it, he may be a bad guy, but he's still allowed to have.
I don't like the look on his face. I don't like the look of his face. There's all these reasons that we as Americans find reprehensible. So let's say that we don't want to be the advanced thought police. You actually need to do something bad to be then adjudicated as doing something bad.
Well, here's another thing. We were talking about earlier that we've been setting records with gun sales for a couple years now.
40-some months.
It's kind of funny because on the news this morning they were polling some people about how they were voting and why they were voting certain ways, and most of them were it was about the economy, or it was about the southern border, or it was they probably talked to 25 people while I was watching the news for a couple hours this morning, and none of them said crime was the issue until the person prodded them in that direction. And then they're like, well, I'm sure someone in the city has problems with crime, but I don't. So but we are still arming up like we got problems with the crime. Maybe it's because we see these 20-something men coming across the southern border that don't look like they need to be leaving their country. They need to be,
right.
It looks like they're getting poised for something in our country.
Did you ever see that whole YouTube gumball analogy about my head wants to say importation, but that's not the word. For when people come and we immigration, that's the word. So so there's a professor that does this whole thing about immigration and what can happen and how it happens and how you can save people and what can a country do. And if you have an opportunity, go watch that, because the thing that resonated the most with me, the absolute thing that resonated the most with me, was that whether you think that the best and the brightest is coming over or not, let's assume that they're not coming over for nefarious purposes. They're coming over to better their lives. So every country's best and brightest packs up and heads out for any of these diminished countries. Well, then they get absorbed into the United States. But what happens is that country becomes a lesser country because of it. Because if we're taking their best.
And I was hearing too, as they were saying, as a first world country such as ours is drawn further and further over the cliff, it diminishes our power to help their country. So their third world country actually is being killed. So what little bit they did have, they have less of. So they have to go somewhere because there's nothing left there.
Yeah. But watch the gumball analogy on YouTube, because it's well worth your time. I'll see if I can find it and post it onto the show notes too. But it was a really interesting, really good thing. But it sort of says, why do people want? I mean, it leads you down this mental process of.
If you look at just the world as a whole from time beginning, once we learned that the world was small and we could actually go somewhere differently, the people, the best and brightest, have always been driven to go somewhere else and try to make it better for themselves. And so as you can see from this experiment in the United States, for what we're 250 years old, we've been drawing people in, a couple thousand a month or whatever, from all over the world, and they come here and they work hard and they try to do something, and we have invented so much stuff. They have made our country the best country due to the fact that they came from their old country, so that they had the freedom to try to do something different or new or exciting.
And it's so you see all of that development, and one would hope that there's a spot where they go back and use that for good, not evil, right? And I think that's a movie, right? So I
think it's once you get to the spot where I made it, now you're chasing that dollar. He got caught up in that, I have to chase this dollar. And so it's not that you want to go back and help somebody. You need to keep making money, because everything you got is eating money as fast as you can.
Well,
you have this money machine that runs on money, and if you stop pedaling, it eats you up.
Well, there's it's all that it's something. But how much of the gun design folks came to the United States from someplace else, and we absorbed them?
Well, the thing too is we stopped after World War I. The Treaty of Versailles stopped gun development in Europe, pretty much. I mean, the countries still developed guns because they wanted them for the military, but the private citizenry didn't need guns. So the little inventor who was inventing something, he wasn't really, it wasn't profitable. It wasn't profitable for him to.
Okay.
So he went on to invent a better toaster or a light bulb or something like this instead of worrying about a gun. But if you look at the first part, say the 1870s, up through 1914, the French developed smokeless gunpowder. The two type of primers we use, one is an American Boxer primer, and the other is a Bourdain primer. A Boxer was an English primer and a English general, and the Bourdain was a American general. So we got a lot of stuff from Europe, and that the automatic pistols were first in Europe, and Browning got his idea from some of the stuff that Luger and Bouchard and these guys were working on, so that he played with it. Clements made some different design things, so that there's a lot of stuff happened in Europe up until we stopped it.
We'll be back right after this.
Grab your friends and head to Georgia to train with the Complete Combatant. The Complete Combatant offers a unique approach to self-defense training, layering the first signs of danger, lethal versus non-lethal decisions, and even surviving the aftermath. They offer premier firearms training with a range master certified instructor and host the top minds in our industry. See the courses offered on thecompletecombatant.com. That's thecompletecombatant.com.
Hi, I'm Janelle Westrom, owner of Davenport Guns and Davenport Shooting Club. At Davenport Guns, we do so much more than sell firearms. We advocate for increased personal safety and security, not just for you, but your whole family and community. Go to davenportguns.com to see our online inventory and browse videos, articles, and things we just find entertaining. Sign up for our newsletter to learn more.
Your front door, your car, your gun. Safety is a habit. Gun safety and responsible storage are no different, and the best way to help prevent accidents, misuse, and theft. Cable locks help keep firearms secured. Learn how to get a free firearm safety kit. Visit projectchildsafe.org. If you have a firearm, own it, respect it, and secure it. Brought to you by the National Shooting Sports Foundation and the Bureau of Justice Assistance.
I'm Charlie Cook from Riding Shotgun with Charlie. Conversations in the car about gun safety, freedoms, and even a few laughs. Imagine you're in the back seat listening to an intimate chat with me and my passengers as we drive all around the country. Listen, watch, and subscribe to the Riding Shotgun with Charlie YouTube channel and podcast.
This is Cheryl Todd of Gun Freedom Radio, and I am proud to join Amanda Suffolcool and all the 50 women, one from each state, in our grassroots efforts to protect the Second Amendment as delegates of the DC Project. Grassroots organizations like the DC Project run on donations, so please consider donating to our GoFundMe/DC Project to keep the promise of freedom alive.
Are you interested in firearms? Are you looking for a resource to help you understand guns? Trying to help someone who's new to the world of shooting? Hi, I'm John Petrolino, 2A writer and the author of Decoding Firearms, an easy-to-read guide on general gun safety and use. Decoding Firearms is a comprehensive book with 266 pages of information. Want to learn more? Visit thepenpatriot.com or get yours today on Amazon in paperback or Kindle.
Ladies, ever wish you could find a brand that understood the difference between feminine and functional? A brand that didn't make you choose between looking good and looking tough. Check out offhandgear.com, a brand designed by a gun girl / mom that closed the gap to give you feminine, durable, functional gear. Offhandgear.com, the brand that gets you.
We all know rust is bad. To help keep rust from forming on your firearms, tools, and other ferrous-based items, you want to have Rust is Bad in your gun-safe toolbox and anywhere you want to be rust-free. Rust is Bad bolsters and G-strings deposit small, safe particles that coat your rust-vulnerable items. Save your valuable items with Rust is Bad. Go to www.eyeonthetargetradio.com and follow the link for more information. That's www.eyeonthetargetradio.com for Rust is Bad.
Okay, so we're back. You were telling me on the break a story about machine gun manufacturers.
Well, at 1900, the machine gun was the way of the future, according to the Europeans, and so there was lots of players in that market, and Hiram Maxim was one of those. And Nagant, you guys have heard of the Nagant Russian rifle. He was a French gun builder who actually made gas sealer pistols. He was famous for this gas sealed gun.
Mhm.
And the but he made machine guns, and he had a salesman that would travel the circuit, and they had a certain amount of time to display their wares and show it up on the
So
rifle
so
range
they
and
would do
stuff.
this thing where it's you're up, you've got 15 minutes here
You
to
have
show
to,
us your
like,
stuff and be done.
continuous fire for so many magazines or whatever to make sure to show that it works. Well, the Nagant guy would sabotage the other players by putting dummy rounds in their belts or whatever, and so Maxim eventually had to hire this guy away from
So Maxima identified that this guy was the
the problem
spy.
because his stuff worked and everybody else's didn't. So he hired this guy away from them to display Maxim products, and then the Maxim gun got to be the gold standard of machine guns for the First World War. So everybody had Maxim guns
Because he hired away the saboteur.
Yeah.
That is pretty darn funny. So,
It's just-
it's like, okay, so industrial espionage has happened for pretty much forever.
since
You
somebody
just-
developed a rock or a wheel or whatever.
Since we developed everything, one guy getting ahead of another guy. Some of them are gonna run to keep ahead of you, and other ones are gonna stand back and hold your head underwater. So that's how that works, right? So we all have seen what has happened in Israel, and we're watching the news, and we're watching some of the defense mechanisms that are taking place there. And do you know that even though you used to see pictures, and it's like, oh, there's an Israeli mom walking with a rifle over her shoulder and stuff, they really started to limit who could have guns. And so Israel they don't have a Second Amendment, and they really kind of wish they did, right? So they do gun permitting, and so in the last month, more than 260,000 Israelis have applied for firearms permits. 260,000. So what's going to happen is, should the government approve them in that quantity, and they right now they say that they're approving 3,000 firearms permit applications a day, 3,000. But one of the largest international arms manufacturing countries, have decided that we're going to put a 90-day moratorium on exportation so that we can control what and where. Though they said, oh, well, Israel will be not in that mix, yet they're grinding everything to a halt. Think about
There's
a
a lot to this.
$250,000,000.
If you're watching this stuff,
Yeah.
I mean, they're trying to sidestep Congress now on this Israeli gun stuff.
Okay.
And the State Department is trying to go around them and do different things. So there's a lot of underhanded things going on here. And there's a guy, Bob Menendez, I believe his name is, a senator from
New Jersey.
New Jersey.
Correct.
I'm not a fan of his, but I think that he is caught up in this. When you look at there's some sleight of hand with this gold that they found in his coat pocket, hanging in the closet or something.
Okay.
And other things that are going on that don't really add up.
So you're saying you think that he may be not the most upstanding senator that we have, but at the same time you think that
he
there's some
stepped on somebody's toes, and they are right now
shenanigans.
there's some shenanigans going on.
Shenanigans.
And so I think that we should pay attention to this, because if you look at the serial numbers on this gold that they found in the custody chain, at one time the FBI owned that gold that they had stole from some other country, and then it was lost in a shipment somehow.
So they.
I mean, I'm not a fan of this guy, but I'm going to say that I think
Curiouser
this. I
and-
also the other end of
But the
that.
FBI said they lost it, so it wasn't.
But
they
the
don't-
other
it's not
end of
theirs.
this guy with the pockets full of gold in his closet, just hanging there doing nothing, is that he is the guy who okays this. He's on this committee for okaying arms shipments out of the country. So he's in
So
charge.
he's in the mix. He's in play. He's in
so I
play,
think
whatever that is.
something. Either he did something against shipping the guns to the stuff to the Ukraine or to Israel or something, and there's a spot where this is really shady looking.
So either he's a shady guy, or he really cranked off a shady guy. So one of the two. So this guy, one way or another, is in. His shoes now stink because he stepped in something.
He stepped in something.
He stepped
And
in
I
something.
think that it may be caustic to him in the long run, because they're going to do something about it. But I don't think he's the actual fault. I think he's the scapegoat for this. So
So now comments are coming in. The laziness and ignorance of the majority of American voters is the reason that these people stay in office and on the bench of our courts. So that, that's a very good point. The judges, when you start to ask people about who's a good judge or who's a good lawyer,
criminals are the only people who know who's a good judge.
Right.
The regular people have never even heard of the guy.
well, they only know that I had cocktails with this judge at one point or another, or my friend knows somebody, right? But
Right, and
you
once
don't
you
know.
get appointed as a judge and you say that you're the incumbent, well, it's like, well, he must be doing a good job, so I'll just keep voting for him.
It's really hard to get an incumbent out. And then name recognition in elections is such an extent that people would vote for Captain Crunch because they know they heard that name somewhere, right? And it sounds very dignified. He's a captain,
How many does
right?
Donald Duck and Mickey Mouse win, eh?
Well, there's that, but he's a captain, so he sounds like he's full of authority. We'll be back right after these messages.
Grab your friends and head to Georgia to train with the Complete Combatant. The Complete Combatant offers a unique approach to self-defense training, layering the first signs of danger. designed by a gun girl / mom that close the gap to give you feminine, durable, functional gear. Offhandgear.com, the brand that gets you.
We all know rust is bad. To help keep rust from forming on your firearms, tools, and other ferrous-based items, you want to have Rust is Bad in your gun-safe toolbox and anywhere you want to be rust-free. Rust is Bad bolsters and G-strings deposit small, safe particles that coat your rust-vulnerable items. Save your valuable items with Rust is Bad. Go to www.eyeonthetargetradio.com and follow the link for more information. That's www.eyeonthetargetradio.com for Rust is Bad.
Your front door, your car, your gun. Safety is a habit. Gun safety and responsible storage are no different, and the best way to help prevent accidents, misuse, and theft. Cable locks help keep firearms secured. Learn how to get a free firearm safety kit. Visit projectchildsafe.org. If you have a firearm, own it, respect it, and secure it. Brought to you by the National Shooting Sports Foundation and the Bureau of Justice Assistance.
I'm Charlie Cook from Riding Shotgun with Charlie. Conversations in the car about gun safety, freedoms, and even a few laughs. Imagine you're in the back seat listening to an intimate chat with me and my passengers as we drive all around the country. Listen, watch, and subscribe to the Riding Shotgun with Charlie YouTube channel and podcast.
Okay, so we are back, and there's just so much stuff. What do you got next? What do you wanna make sure that we hit before we?
Polymer 80 was suing the government in the Texas court about the ghost gun thing, and
so think about this. It's not that the government was suing. Well, they were suing Polymer 80, but Polymer 80 flipped it back and flipped the narrative. And they were suing the ATF in Texas federal court. Okay, keep going.
But so now they've put a stay on it until the Supreme Court can hear it. So I don't know exactly if it's if it's going to be a special, or if it just goes into the regular thing, and it will come out sometime between now and June.
So they say that, so they're waiting to see. So the Fifth Circuit's stay on the injunction was after the Supreme Court of the United States, so the Supreme Court, stepped in and when they use the word stayed, that is, they put it on the shelf. They just were like, okay, we're not changing anything right now. So we're just going to hold steady. So, it's like, hold steady. Just hold steady.
Although the stay is not what the gun owners want, the government is still facing an uphill battle to defend its rules. So it's the kind of thing that we just have to wait until it actually gets to a bigger court.
But it's Vanderstook versus Garland is the case that this is all going to bundle up under, and yeah.
Well, the thing is we've had. I mean, when you go to that 1791 thing, guns didn't have serial numbers back in the day, and really they didn't start putting serial numbers on until Colt and them started about 1836.
So Colt started in 1836, but they numbered things and then they renumbered things. So their goal was to number it to get it out of the factory.
The Pattersons, I believe, were just numbered up to a 1,000 number, and then they started over again, so that they kept the parts of this gun together with that gun until they went through. And you've seen that with Stevens and Savage and some of these guys clear up into the 1920s. In the Colt, because he had a vested interest in wanting to show you that he made 3,000 or 5,000 or 50,000 guns, because that was advertising to him, and
but he also cooked the numbers in a manner to where he start and jump and hook and
right. So,
shoot.
but that's the thing is, he would sequentially serial number stuff. He didn't necessarily. I mean, it wasn't a big deal to him if he missed a 200 numbered batch, or two guns went out the factory with the same number or something. It was
neither one of those.
Just how it happened.
Well,
and until 1968, the government didn't care one way or the other.
let's talk a little bit about the Ross variation in the Rugers, because that was one of those. This is a story.
Well, Ross, they call it a Ross variation because a guy named Ross discovered it. But in the Ruger 357 Magnum pistol, in 1956, when they started to ship these, they started with serial number 1 and went up through the serial numbers. A guy from Marlin at the time called Ruger and said that he wanted one of these guns because he thought that was a good idea. And so Ruger, not wanting him to know that he hadn't only made about 5,000 guns at that time, he had them stamp a 1 in front of the serial number to send to this guy. Well, nobody give this serial number stamper guy a memo to say to stop. So he stamped, I believe there's about 1,400 of these guns, I think.
So he just kept going.
I'm not exactly sure of the number. I mean, it's written down somewhere, but it's not in my head. But I know that it's in the 1,500 serial number range, and the 15,000 serial.
Yeah. So it started as 5,000. So it was 5,000, and then it jumped, back.
But Ruger used a very narrow front sight on the first guns. There was a couple of different things about it. And by the time they had got to this 15,000 serial number guns, all of that stuff had changed. So the front sight was different. The loading, the unloading lever, stuff like this had all been changed. So here they find these guns in this 1,000, about a 1,000 serial number variation off for some reason, that are Type 1 guns in a Type 2 or 3 series range. And so that's why Ross noted that there was a lot of these. He had found multiples instead of it being just a one-time thing or somebody changing it himself. And this is the story that came out from the factory. But Ruger did it because he wanted to show that he sold more guns and looked like a bigger shot. The government didn't care one way or the other what number was on that gun. It didn't
because
make a
it
difference.
was not yet 1968, where each gun had to have a distinct and identifiable serial number.
During the First World War and the Second World War, the government needed 1911 pistols, and so they would just give a company a block of numbers to use. So they could tell you for sure that these were Remington Rand guns by the serial number range. So even though the frame doesn't say that it's a Remington, they know that it was built by Remington, or it was built by Colt, or it was built by somebody. And so they just handed out these serial numbers to work with at that point. So at the end of that, I mean, until 1968, nobody cared what numbers was on.
Nobody cared. They were used here for identification, different things, but nobody really cared. I mean, Ruger would find. We know specifically that Ruger would find that, there was something happened, and we made 2 of exactly the same number. So then they would add a D to the end for a duplicate.
Right. So you once in a while you'll find 2 guns that one's got a D, or both of them have a D, depending on if it came from the factory or something. They put a D in the front and a D in the back or something of the number.
Because they're like, I gotta make this different because there's something going on here, but I gotta make this different. So it's pretty interesting. So it'll be another watch this space to see what happens with Polymer 80 and with this case. But folks, I think that the thing we really want to keep stressing is we are winning. The news doesn't tell us, the mainstream media is not telling you, but we're winning. We're winning all over the place.
Right, and if you watch, there's a lot of little. I mean, these municipalities are passing new laws trying to hold on, but they're not doing well at it. We had one of the articles in here was funny because it was they were trying to get around the Bruin case. And you know that 1791
history, texture, and tradition, right?
And so they had gone back to they were trying to cite some stuff from the Wild West that the court says didn't count because less than 1% of the population was ruled by these territorial laws.
So Bruin says that if you want to invoke a law, it needed to be in play in 1791 in the colonies, in history, text, or tradition. So, in a couple cases here, they quoted Western territorial law where nobody really lived. They quoted laws from the 18th century, early 19th century.
They even went as far back as a English law from 1328. So British statute forbidding the riding armed by night or by day in fairs, markets, and a statute. It was a statute of Northampton, 1328. But
Okay, so this British statute forbidding you, so you couldn't take your car, well in this case your horse, armed by night or day, and so you weren't allowed to ride around with a gun. So no cruising around with your gun
Right.
and your horse, right?
But
and
in
only
fairs,
and
markets,
markets.
right?
But it was in Northampton, and it was in 1328. Here's the thing that I think that they're missing. And the big thing that they're missing is we don't care.
Well,
right?
the other funny part was is that actually in Bruin they cited this thing and saying that it was 450 years before anything really mattered, so that it doesn't count, and so they'd already addressed it in the the actual court case at that point. So then they tried to go to these 1870 Texas laws and
1882, 1869 Tennessee.
right, and say that it was part of that 14th Amendment thing, but even these don't meet the qualification.
So here's that thing again. They're going to try to tell you 1328. Okay, that doesn't work. Now we're going to tell you 1870. And then guess what, kids? That's not 1791 either. They all have numbers in there, but those numbers don't apply. They don't apply, and they are in this case, they're 100 years later. That doesn't count. That just flat out doesn't count. So it's really interesting. Again, they're losing. They're losing and they're scrambling. And so this is both in New York and in New Mexico. Both of them have been pushing.
Well, it's funny because in New York, the judge actually said that it was that the law didn't fit the thing, so that their public parks law comports with the Constitution of the Second Amendment. At the same exact time, a federal judge in New Mexico said that it did not withstand the court challenge of
So New York's like, oh yes, this will stand, and New Mexico is like, oh no, this will not stand, and they're using exactly the same argument. Two different judges, two different district courts,
and it's funny.
It's headed for the Supreme Court too. That's how this works. When they don't agree and they start all this stuff, they are headed for the Supreme Court, which is the final supreme being of decision making. We'll be back.
Hi, I'm Janelle Westrom, owner of Davenport Guns and Davenport Shooting Club. At Davenport Guns, we do so much more than sell firearms. We advocate for increased personal safety and security, not just for you, but your whole family and community. Go to DavenportGuns.com to see our online inventory and browse videos, articles, and things we just find entertaining. Sign up for our newsletter to learn more.
This is Cheryl Todd of Gun Freedom Radio, and I am proud to join Amanda Suffolcool and all the 50 women, one from each state, in our grassroots efforts to protect the Second Amendment as delegates of the DC Project. Grassroots organizations like the DC Project run on donations, so please consider donating to our GoFundMe/DC Project to keep the promise of freedom alive.
Ladies, ever wish you could find a brand that understood the difference between feminine and functional? A brand that didn't make you choose between looking good and looking tough. Check out offhandgear.com, a brand designed by a gun girl / mom that closed the gap to give you feminine, durable, functional gear. Offhandgear.com, the brand that gets you.
We all know rust is bad. To help keep rust from forming on your firearms, tools, and other ferrous-based items, you want to have Rust is Bad in your gun-safe toolbox and anywhere you want to be rust-free. Rust is Bad bolsters and G-strings deposit small, safe particles that coat your rust-vulnerable items. Save your valuable items with Rust is Bad. Go to www.eyeonthetargetradio.com and follow the link for more information. That's www.eyeonthetargetradio.com for Rust is Bad.
Okay, you ask yourself, who is this Realize Firearms Awareness Coalition and what do they do? Realize Firearms Awareness Coalition is a not-for-profit group based in Portage County, registered as a 501c3 and organized to educate about the historical intent of the Second Amendment to the Constitution of the United States of America, to share knowledge, to enable citizens to accurately relate and defend aspects of the U.S. Constitution, to enhance public awareness and support for responsible gun ownership, and to emphasize firearms education for women who facilitate the transmittal of constitutional awareness and gun ownership to succeeding generations. How do they intend to do that? By talking to you all and having you talk back, by hosting educational summits and events. So tune in, listen, and participate. RealizeFAC.com.
Your front door, your car, your gun. Safety is a habit. Gun safety and responsible storage are no different, and the best way to help prevent accidents, misuse, and theft. Cable locks help keep firearms secured. Learn how to get a free firearm safety kit. Visit projectchildsafe.org. If you have a firearm, own it, respect it, and secure it. Brought to you by the National Shooting Sports Foundation and the Bureau of Justice Assistance.
Grab your friends and head to Georgia to train with the Complete Combatant. The Complete Combatant offers a unique approach to self-defense training, layering the first signs of danger, lethal versus non-lethal decisions, and even surviving the aftermath. They offer premier firearms training with a range master certified instructor and host the top minds in our industry. See the courses offered on thecompletecombatant.com. That's thecompletecombatant.com.
Okay, so as we were going into the commercial break, Rob's like, but I've got a story I want to talk about. And I'm like, the commercial break waits for no one.
It was just comical, and it fits in with the other, where the courts are being bullied by the people.
By the facts?
And
Wait.
it's, I mean, the Second Amendment Foundation is very active in righting wrongs across the country.
They are the people that stand for us all. So join them, and a life membership is $150. It's very well worth your time and money. But there
was a public housing group in New York that's made it so that you can't live in their houses, in their housing, if you have an actual gun, a display gun, a part of a gun, anything like this.
Okay, so let's step back a minute and think about this. So that says that if you live, and generally public housing is underserved communities, so if you live in the hood, or if you are in an underserved community, they don't put public housing on Rodeo Drive. Right? I mean, so where are you most likely to need to defend yourself, defend your family?
Well, and part of this you'd think was when Heller straightened out Washington, D.C., that would have been taken care of. But anyhow, this place is Cortland Housing Authority in Cortland, New York.
So they said you can't have a gun in your house. You can't defend yourself, because if you can't have one in your house, you can't leave one in your car, which means you can't own a gun. And the place that you live has decided that you need to be disarmed, and they made that determination.
Well, this says they couldn't in their the paperwork you have to sign to move in.
Your lease,
right? You
your
can't
contract.
You can't display, use, or possess or allow members of tenants,
your
household guests, or to display, use, possess any firearms operable or inoperable, or any other weapons as defined by the law and courts of the state of New York anywhere in the property.
So you can't have it. Anybody that's related to you can't have it. Anybody who visits your house can't have it. Right? I mean, they're pretty inclusive on the fact that you do not get to defend yourself. And oh, by the way, any other weapon as defined by the laws and the courts. Think about what Europe's doing with save a life, turn in a knife. Are you allowed to have a steak knife there? I mean,
what was funny is that when they were confronted about this, and in the complaint, and the plaintiffs argued that the gun ban on the housing authority properties was virtually identical to the prohibitions put in place by the East St. Louis Housing Authority in Illinois.
Okay, so they said their answer when they went to fight it with them is saying, well, East St. Louis did this. We're using them as an example. We're holding up their lease as an example to our lease. Now carry on.
Right. Well, and it was funny because the guys at the Second Amendment Foundation, Alan Gottlieb and them, had a beaten the East St. Louis Housing Authority in court, and they capitulated and they allowed the residents to who were permitted in Illinois to possess firearms and functional weapons and other things. So the Illinois had already changed, even though
several years before.
Right.
Several years before, the SAF and the Illinois State Rifle and Pistol Association had given them
it's not going to go good for them in court, I don't think.
Given them the beat down.
Between Heller and the fact that the Second Amendment's already beat this
Right.
St. Louis.
I mean, and the fact that they didn't do their homework, they're like, I'm just using this old lease that I found on the internet that met the criteria of what I wanted, and I'm going to blame them. You are, whatever they're paying their lawyer, it's way too much.
It doesn't go good for you when you get thrown under the bus, as an example.
It is you're paying him way too much. It could be $1.
Yeah, it used to be when you were a kid, you'd say, well, Johnny was doing that first. It's like,
it didn't fly with our mom then.
Still got slapped in the face.
Right? You got slapped down then.
She said it first.
You're getting slapped down now. That is exactly it. He's like, look at this. Alan Gottlieb and the Second Amendment Foundation is going to give them
My mom didn't need time to deliberate on any of that, though. She was instantaneous in her.
She would make those from the bench decisions that didn't require any additional contemplation, right?
I can remember riding in the car, she'd reach back and bounce your head off the window on the side of the car.
Well, that's kind of, in my mind, what Clarence Thomas is saying right now, which is don't make me pull over this car, because if I have to pull over this car, we are having a conversation.
We never got pulled over. She just reached it back and wham. And if you happen to be in the middle, sometimes she would use your head. You know those little metal things that they got where you pull the ball back and hit it, and your head would be used as that little the initiator on that ball.
I have to say that I was generally in the middle, so I would get the first smack before she got to one of you guys.
And your head would bounce off of my head.
Right. There was all of that. I
got the message.
How we are siblings and are still civil to one another, I don't understand.
It's funny how that works.
It is funny how that works. I do not understand how that works.
Things are happening in Florida too. This is just one thing where the ATF has been going after some FFLs and trying to revoke licenses and stuff like this. We've talked about this on the other show multiple times. So Florida now is fighting back, and so the ATF says never mind.
So the ATF has revoked the revocation letter to the store over minor paperwork errors. They said the paperwork errors were very, very minimal. I mean, they were
Well, I
trunky.
think this was the
where,
place
you
that
know,
it had like 2 or 3 locations, and they took all of their licenses away from it, even though it was only one place that had a minor thing. But so that
they pulled them all. They also took the paperwork. Yeah, there was a variety.
So there's a lot of things happening in Florida, folks, and gun things are just some of it. So
Right.
pay attention.
I
Because,
like the fact that the ATF says, "Oh yeah, you can't sue us, you can't do anything because there's no longer any irreparable harm since they gave the FFL back." So they're like, I didn't touch that. We're fine. It's just it's all good, right? It's sort of like let's go back to the brother sister analogy. When you knock over the little sister and you scuff her up in the dirt, and then you stand her up and you buff her off, and you're like, "You're okay, right? You're okay, right?" Shake it off. The ATF has got this gun store, and they're like dusting the dust off of
you
them.
see, spitting on their hand, wiping the dirt off of their knees and stuff.
That's exactly it. You're okay, right? You'll be fine. Don't tell mom. Just don't.
Don't tell me.
Don't tell mom. That's kind of where the ATF is right now, and I believe that
I mean, the ATF was somewhat mild mannered until they got that Diedelbach in charge, and I think he's just Joe Biden's little watchdog. That's
and here's what I think is I think before that there was nobody officially in charge. So if everyone's in charge, no one's in charge, and so everybody's like, yeah, that's outside my pay grade, right?
I don't want.
Now there's a guy.
Not for me. Yep, I didn't do it.
And it doesn't even have to be that guy does anything. The fact that he's sitting in that chair, then everybody's like, okay, we're on forward march. Here we go. Because they're doing so much stuff that he could not. I don't want to give him credit for anything, but he could not be in the know of everything that's going on there. They're just blaming him, and he's sitting over there going, what?
I like when he was in front of Congress, he said, "I'm not a gun guy." It's like, why would you have that job if you're not a gun guy?
Well, maybe he's an explosives guy. Maybe he's I don't know, Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco. So are you a smoking, alcohol drinking, bomb making guy? I don't know, but I'm not a gun guy. So I'm just gonna say, get the F out of BATFE. Get the firearms out of it. It'll be fine. We'll be back.